Yes, pre-orders for the iPad begin tomorrow, but should you be an early adopter? We'll tell you. Maybe. We'll tell you right now in the loop. Thanks, Olivia. All right, joining me from New York to help us make sense of it all, editor for Silicon Alley Insider Dan Fromer joins us again, and contributing editor for Gizmodo, Matt Buchanan. Welcome to the loop, gentlemen. Let the nerd battle begin! Dan, pre-orders for the iPad, like I said, they begin tomorrow, and in true Apple fashion, there's going to be huge shortages and major lines and people dressed up as Jobs in their turtleneck, clawnet eyes. Do we need to make sure that we actually pre-order one? Should we rush out to get this thing?
You know, I don't know. This is something they've gotten actually better at, is having enough quantity to demand. So maybe not pre-order, but if you don't need the money to pay rent, and if you want to get a new toy this year, there's nothing else like this on the market right now. This is something you might as well go out and try.
But who cares if your babies have food in their bellies? I want to pinch zoom the internet. Matt, do you agree?
Exactly.
Do you agree with Dan that if you have the money, you should spend it on the iPad?
I think it's smart to wait, actually, and if you look at the last couple of Apple product launches, there's definitely evidence to back that up. The first iPhone didn't have 3G, and if you waited around for the second generation, not only did it get cheaper, it had 3G, and that phone has MMS now, and the original doesn't. Or even if you look to the iMac, the most recent iMac, the 27-inch iMac, gorgeous screen, but they had these production problems where you had like a yellow display. So I think it's smart to actually wait, if not the entire first generation out, to wait at least a couple of months for the first production run, so that way they have time to iron out all of the kinks.
But if you wait, you don't get all the sweet, sweet Apple tail when you're demoing that product you got early. Dan,
look, I could have waited a year. I could have waited a year before I got my first iPhone, and I did end up waiting a year, and I was stuck with a Trio for a whole other year. So, if you want to be on the cutting edge, if you want the hot gadget that's out there right now, there's nothing that comes close, and this is something that you might as well get now. I mean, you could keep waiting forever, but then you're still waiting forever, and you don't have an iPad or whatever.
Well, I was on the cutting edge of the Apple Air, and I got to have the lap burns as that thing would overheat trying to play Pagel and YouTube videos at the same time when I was in bed.
Exactly.
And so
the
Dan,
second Gen Air did better.
Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, no, well, exactly. Like the second generation Air did much better with video. It had the new graphics chip. People could say, oh, well, then you'll just wind up waiting forever. But I think there are smarter points to jump in than there are others. And the iPhone 3G, for instance, I think was the best point to jump in with the iPhone, clearly. And coming up.
But was that because it was 3G, or was that because of the App Store? Because clearly we're not getting the 3G part, at least not in New York. It was the apps, and that was a software thing. That's, it has nothing to do with the new hardware generation.
Well, even apps, right? The best apps did not launch on the iPhone the day the App Store launched, right? If you look at the apps now versus where they were a year ago, it's a completely different ballgame. And so if you wait a couple of months, that's when the best apps are really going to start coming out, as people start to figure out how people are going to really use this thing. So you're safely waiting for the apps that are going to make this thing essential to have in the first place.
Well, we certainly know that the App Store is obviously successful and will probably be just that on the iPad. Granted, yes, we'll probably have to wait a few months for some killer apps. And books as well. We're going to be purchasing those. But Dan, what about core functionality that currently isn't in the iPad? When we look at stuff like multitasking, for example, or the lack of a camera, a lot of people like to point to those features and say, how can you early adopt a device like this when those core features that so many people wanted aren't included?
Well, as far as the camera goes, if they're going to offer an update with a camera, it's probably not going to be until next year sometime. So I doubt they would even do that before the holidays this year. Other stuff, multitasking, I mean, that's stuff that's going to be a software update. I don't understand why people are really upset about no multitasking here. You've been living without it on the iPod the iPhone for 3 years. This is not for people who want another laptop or a netbook or anything like that. It's for a mainstream audience that doesn't even know what the difference between a capacitive touchscreen and anything else is. It's for normal people.
Soccer moms across the country just said, how dare you? They know the difference, Dan. They know it. Matt, now let me ask you this. If the iPad doesn't have a successful launch, which I'm sure it'll be sold out and everybody will be hyping the fact that, us included, that there aren't enough to get, but if the launch isn't as successful as Apple is predicting and everybody's predicting, could it actually hurt the future of tablets in general?
Tablets have been really terrible for the last 10 years, and that really hasn't hurt the excitement over the iPad. So I don't think even if the initial iPad isn't quite what people expect it to be, I don't think it's going to hurt our tablet fantasies. I mean, people have been wanting this thing since Star Trek. So the tablet dream will live on, even if the iPad in its current incarnation doesn't exactly fulfill it.
All right, Dan, at the end of the day, is there any serious competition out there for the iPad? Could you actually recommend to someone, look, if you want to hold off on the iPad, go get product X?
No, not today. I'm intrigued by what Microsoft will do with Courier or whatever that ends up being. But come on, what, the CrunchPad Juju thing, that's nothing. And it looks like Apple has come along, like it did with the iPhone, and just completely leapfrog the competition. So it could be 2 or 3 years like we're seeing in phones before anyone catches up. Or maybe this HP thing is amazing, and by the end of the year, we're all running around with those. Who knows?
We'll see if at the end of the day, everybody who says, hold on, gets that techno lust and starts frothing from the mouth and picks one up anyway. That's typically how these stories end. Thanks to Dan Fromer from Silicon Alley Insider and Matt Buchanan from Gizmodo. We appreciate you keeping us in the loop, guys. Thank you.